Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bobby, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Nathan Liker,
Here.
Chair Neil Younger,
Here?
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The only thing out of order on the business, I'm going to have Lisa come in after we approve the minutes and the consent agenda. Okay, so everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everything's good?
Yep.
Okay. Approve the minutes as presented. The consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, is Lisa here yet?
There she is.
Yep.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Lisa Ree, County Appraiser. Darren has asked me to come speak to you this morning, and I spoke to Commissioner Younger yesterday afternoon. He's received a lot of phone calls concerning some mailings that our office has been putting out. The latest one has been with golf carts. Golf carts are considered personal property. They are classified as other. They're not, like when you get your car tags, you pay your property tax when you get your car tags. On any items in our office classified as personal property, they're listed in our office, and then you get a tax statement in November. Golf carts are taxable. We reached out to Fort Hays Municipal Golf Course and to Smoky Hill to get a listing of all golf carts that are housed on their property. Fort Hays did reply to us, and we have sent letters out to people that house their golf carts there that we did not have listed already. And those are the letters that were mailed out. We have not received anything back from Smoky Hill yet, but we will continue to try to get that list. And we're doing that because we have people that do provide us with their golf cart information, but not everybody does. Whether they don't know about it or not, maybe that might be the issue. Maybe they don't know that golf carts are taxable. But this is our way of trying to get as best information as we can and to be fair to everyone. We've also sent out letters last year with ATVs. We got a lot of response on that. And we're also sending out letters on trailers. We get information from the treasurer's office when there is any registration or title work done on vehicles that are not considered taxed when tagged. We get that information, and we're going through that, and we're trying to make a database of trailers. Not all trailers are taxable. Some are, and so we're trying to get information on that to distinguish what should be taxed and what should not. So letters are going out on those also.
Are you sending letters to some of the sales places for the golf carts so they make purchasers aware?
That's a good idea. We could do that to the local ones and tell them that if they would, we could give them a form or a little pamphlet or something, and
At
they could
least
pass
relay.
that out to the people when they purchase them. Yeah,
That might help.
yeah.
So as far as the Smoky Hill one, you're going to do a follow-up?
Yes.
What is there a deadline to this to be sent in a second notification?
I don't think the statute mentions, the statute does say that they are required to give us an annual listing of golf carts that are listed on their property.
Okay.
So, but we will be following up with Smoky Hill. Hopefully they will comply with that.
Well, that helps this way now when the phone calls,
Yes,
I'll be able to explain it to them.
okay. And if you do receive phone calls, just send them to our office. We'll be glad to help them or explain it better or walk them through the process.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any issues from people not on the agenda? Okay. Okay, Jennifer, if you'd come up for new employee. Guess I should rephrase that, employees.
Good morning, Jennifer Taylor, Ellis County HR, and I would like to introduce to you a couple new employees that we have had over the last month or two. I have Jerry French. She is a medical assistant with our health department. And then I also have Megan Cole here with me, and she is in the appraisers department as a field appraiser. And then I had 2 part-time EMTs that were not available to be here today, but we have Erica Vassar and Justin Coitz. So if you want to welcome them, we're happy to have them here.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, if Mr. Michael Graham would come up, please.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is
Morning.
Mike Graham from Turnkey Property, and I was, I asked the commission in last September about the grant through the Kansas Housing Authority, and it was a moderate income housing grant. And we're not able to get that grant at that time, so we are reapplying for this 2023 first round. And since we have a couple commissioners that are new, I'll go over. The project itself is over here by Washington School in the playground area. And we have a total of 3 buildings with 11 garages on the lower floor because of the flood zone, and then 3 floors above that with apartments. And the apartments will total 33 additional apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. They're geared towards moderate income housing, and that's why we are back asking for the county to support a resolution of support for this project. Any questions about the program?
Will there be, will those be accessible, like handicap accessible?
You know,
Will they follow ADA guidelines?
Yes, we do have to follow the ADA guidelines for the project. We have run into the issue where because they're in a flood zone and we have to have garages up there, trying to have an elevator in that flood zone is not possible to do. So we do have to have on the second floor 3 of the apartments ADA compatible. And that's basically all we can do, and they are approved to be that way.
Would that be on all 3 buildings or a single building?
Just on one single building,
Okay.
what we're doing. So,
Burgess,
Yeah, I
anything?
don't have any, I've been aware of this project kind of coming from the past. I think we need housing. I think it's a great opportunity. It'll, kind of go along with the stone post lofts that have already been built in there and improved. So adding more apartments down there would be great. So I'm highly supportive of the resolution.
Time frame. Any idea?
we will be starting the 1st of March with foundation on the first building, and then as soon as that's cured and ready, we will be going on the project. We anticipate the first building will be complete in 6 to 7 months, and then have tenants in them in that side, and then the second phase will be started in May of this summer for the foundations on the other 2, and then they will just progress. So we anticipate about a 16-month process for the whole project to be complete and have tenants in there.
Is this project going to continue whether you get the grant or not?
It will, yes.
Okay.
I really do appreciate you doing this, Michael. I mean, I've done several projects with you, and everything you have is outstanding, so
Okay,
I really
thank
do
you so much.
appreciate that.
All right, we appreciate the support. Okay,
So,
thanks.
gentlemen, do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we approve the resolution.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Okay. Moving on, Mr. Doug Williams.
Good morning, Commissioners, staff.
Morning.
Doug Williams, Executive Director of Grow Haze. Appreciate you giving me a few minutes on your agenda this morning to give you a little update on what we've been up to at Grow Haze and what we're looking forward to in 2023. Not sure how I advance this, Darren. Do you do that? The signal, huh? Kind of what I'd like to go over with you today is the highlights of 2022 and then what we're looking forward in 2023, a little update on all of our projects. First thing I want to show you, and some of you are probably getting tired of seeing this, but this is the rural hierarchy of needs that we have kind of adopted in terms of what is needed in a rural community to attract a workforce, attract people to your community, and retain them. And the most important on the bottom, and it works its way up. And I've said often that in the last couple of decades, we've kind of had this pyramid upside down. We do a great job of medical care, infrastructure, our quality of life is good, we've got great bandwidth. Haven't done so well in the area of education and in the area of housing. We took a big step forward this year with the pass of the school bond last spring. I say this year, it was actually last year. And we made some strides on housing as well, which I'll cover a little bit later in the presentation. First off, I want to thank you all, the City of Hays, as well as our private investors for your increased funding last year. It allowed us to hire a couple new people. With me today are David Klingon and James Robin. I think you all probably know those two, but they've been great additions to our staff, which coupled with Ernie, who has been there for a long, long time, we've got a great team. And so appreciate your support last year to increase your contribution to Grow Hays, and along with, as I said, the City of Hays and our private investors also stepped up, so thank you. The big project in 2022 was the Grow Hays Microfactory. We received a base grant in last February or March, and it allows us to construct a 30,000 square foot manufacturing facility. It'll be located at the corner of 9th and Commerce Parkway. And it's an incubator for startup manufacturers, as well as expansions if we have a small manufacturer that needs a more appropriate space. It'll be a very manufacturing-friendly structure, tall ceilings, overhead doors for ingress and egress of materials, power capacity to meet the needs of whatever they might need. And so we're really looking forward to that as a great tool to help us organically grow some small manufacturers. And the concept is they move in, they operate in there for 2, 3, 4 years, outgrow the space, need their own, they move out, and the next one moves in. And so this is a facility that'll pay dividends for decades. We received a $2.6 million grant from the state of Kansas, a base grant. We received a $500,000 grant from the Patterson Family Foundation. Heart of America was good enough to donate the lot to us, which had a value of $275,000. And then the City of Hays passed IRBs, which allow us to avoid sales tax on the construction materials as well as property tax abatement for 10 years, which then allows us to pass those savings on to the tenants who will be occupying that space at a significantly reduced rate versus what they would either have to pay in rent or what it would cost them to build that type of facility. And I mentioned David and James before. Both of those guys were instrumental. David was terrific in getting the base grant and the Patterson Family Foundation grant. James acquired a $750,000 interest-free loan for us from the Innovation Center in Norton. So it's great to have that kind of team to be able to work on these projects. Another activity that we participate in that not a lot of people know about is our e-community relationship with Network Kansas. They work with us, and we conduct the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge amongst high school students, come in and give entrepreneurial presentations, trying to create this environment of entrepreneurship in our community, starting them young. We did the Ice House class, which we call Think Like an Entrepreneur. It's an 8-week class where would-be entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs come to the class and understand the concepts and the requirements of being an entrepreneur and starting a business. And then we also have an e-community loan program where we loan money to startups for the gap financing they need. Many times the bank is willing to loan X amount of dollars, but they need that difference. The bank won't go 100%. We provide the gap. And we've got 23 loans right now totaling just under $500,000 that we have made to local businesses. And last year, because of a grant from the Patterson Foundation, $27,000 of the money that we loaned was granted to that party. So if we had a borrower that borrowed $45,000, they signed a note for $36,000 that they had to pay back, but they got a check for $45,000. So a nice shot in the arm to get them started. Our Imagine Ellis County group is about 2 years old now. We did receive another $50,000 grant from the Schmidt Foundation. We produced 6 quality of life videos about quality of life in Ellis County. Hayes, Ellis, and Victoria residents have participated in those, doing little 1-minute videos that we're circulating as best we can through YouTube as well as other means. We did a countywide survey asking people countywide what they would like to see, what they like about Ellis County, their level of satisfaction with Ellis County. That's out on our website. If you haven't seen it, it provides some good information. We have an ongoing marketing campaign on the eastern slope of Colorado, trying to attract people to our community, people who are tired of the rat race, tired of high cost of living, tired of traffic. They are getting geofencing notifications. However that works, I do not know. But that Eagle is taking care of that for us, and these people are directed to our website, our Imagine Ellis County website, and consequently some of these videos and things where they can see what it's like to live here versus maybe where they're living now. And we also have a website and a Facebook page. From a business standpoint, there were 17 new businesses or acquisitions that took place last year. 5 will open in the next few months. We've got retail developers who are actively looking at Hayes. Some big box stores are looking. That's kind of an ongoing challenge, but they continue to look. And we've got a star bond developer who's looking at a project in Hayes. Housing. You're probably all familiar with the Heart of America Tallgrass Edition, east of NCK. That started phase 1. The infrastructure was completed in the fall of 2021. At this point in time, all homes are sold. It's now 20 homes are occupied. Somebody moved in last week. 17 are under construction, so that's a total of 36 homes that'll be completed by the end of this year. 5 of those should be done in the next 30 to 60 days. 12 of them have foundation only. And this has been a really successful project, and especially in light of how difficult it is to build right now with costs and the challenges of not enough subcontractors, not enough framers, electricians, plumbers. Everybody's very busy, but these builders out there have persevered and made it happen. And so we've got 20 living there, and there'll be another 17 living there by the end of the year, or 16. And then we've got 18 lots in the next phase, which should be done any time now. They're laying the cement, the final street pieces. We'll have to get Midwest Energy's electric and gas group in there to get those utilities run. But this spring, we should be seeing some additional activity on those next 18 lots.
Doug, do you have an idea of, are these people moving to Hayes? Are they people upsizing, downsizing that are already within Hayes and Ellis County, or where are these 36 that are sold? Where are the occupants coming from?
Boy, you led me right into the next slide.
Okay.
In that addition, there's 13 first-time buyers, 10 downsizers or upsizers, so people who have either moved up or moved down, but they have sold an existing home in the community or will be selling an existing home in the community. 11 brand new to Hayes who have moved from the outside, and 2 have sold to investors. So pretty good mix, about what we would have expected and hoped for. We really didn't know when we went into this how it would break out, but thus far, I think, if you think about it, there's 36 homes that have been built or will have been built, plus another 10, so that's 46 new homes that have hit the market or will hit the market because of this development. So that's impactful in our community.
If they're new to Hayes, or how are they, are realtors informing them that these houses are being developed?
Little of everything. You know, the word of mouth gets out on these, and they hear about them. They contact the builders. Some realtors have steered them in that direction or taken care of them. So we've got a cross-section of how people are hearing about it, but it's pretty well known. I know all of the 36 are sold. You know, 16 are waiting for their home to be done. And then each of these builders has a backlog of people who are interested in the next phase. So we limited phase 1 to $225,000 as a maximum sales price. Heart of America was good enough to sell them the lot for $10,000. A $10,000 lot with no specials because of what you all and the school district and the city of Hayes did for the Rural Housing Incentive District. That's a bargain. So they've gone fast, and the next phase, because of some additional cost, Heart of America has to raise the price to $15,000 on the lots, and the builders have asked for another $5,000. So the maximum price in the next 18 will be $235,000. Still pretty much well below what market value would be, given the way our market is, even in spite of increased interest rates and that kind of thing. That gives you a visual of the development. You can see phase 1, the 36 I've been talking about. In the blue is phase 2. Those are the ones that are almost done, and construction will start sometime this spring or early summer. And then we're still working on developing the lots along the entryway into NCK on Wheatland Drive. That street needs to be improved. The city has been willing to accept a concrete or a asphalt overlay versus tearing out the existing street and putting in new cement streets, so it's considerably cheaper to do that. So we're working on that currently, and what type of housing would go on there, because it's going to be a little bit different development. As you can see in the first 2 phases, you've got one house on one side of the street and one house on the other side of the street, so you're splitting the cost of that street, sewer, and water. On Wheatland Drive, you don't have anybody across the street, so those lots in orange have to bear the cost of all of that infrastructure. There's no way to split it in 2. So we've got to take a little bit different perspective. That's probably going to have to be some sort of denser housing, multifamily, something a little bit different than what has gone in the other areas in terms of residential. Thought I'd share an email I got back in 2020 from a guy. He emailed me about this. He was having trouble moving to town, and we hadn't even started on this development yet in terms of selling any lots or anything. And he was interested in it, and he couldn't find any housing. And I thought it's a great story because just last month he moved into a house in this development. So they found one, made a deal out there, and have since relocated here from Topeka. As we look at housing, I wanted to share with you, this is the City of Hayes Building Inspection Department. Last year there were 39 single-family residences that were permitted. 27 of them were in the Heart of America edition that I just covered, 12 of them outside of that. There were 2 duplexes and a 12-plex, and the 12-plex is the Frontier Apartments, the former St. Joseph School building on 13th Street. That's a total of 55 units, which, as you can see, is more than what we have done in most periods in the past. The 71 there were 42 units in the Ellis Estates addition up there, the West Bayners add-on to Ellis Estates, which is currently under construction. The housing study that was conducted last July or last spring indicated that if we want to achieve 1% annual growth, we need to build 85 to 90 units per year. And as you can see, we're a long ways from that. And this doesn't deal with what I consider to be a backlog of housing that we have underbuilt for a while, and so there's a strong demand for housing that we're still battling with people finding a place to live and finding appropriate housing, particularly appropriate housing. And what I say is I can't guarantee that we'll achieve 1% growth, but I can guarantee that we won't if we don't build sufficient housing. And so while I'm happy about what happened last year, and I'm happy that Mike Graham is proceeding with his project, we need to think in terms of 80 to 90 units per year, and that's hard to ramp up to. So I'm going to be in front of you with other projects in the not too distant future. And actually, I want to go over a project that we're working on now we're calling the Grove, which is a project north of Hayes Medical Center. We have purchased the land north of Hayes Medical Center for a 100-plus unit, $40 million residential development that will consist of patio homes, duplexes, townhouses, and multifamily units. It will also contain a community center. That's a little bit of a look at how it'll be. On the bottom of the picture is Hayes Medical Center, and that's Canterbury running north and south there. So you can see this takes in the wheat field that's to the north of Hayes Medical Center right now, but it also curls around and gets the corner house, which belongs to Hayes Medical Center. That will be moved off, and the lot behind the corner house will be built on, and that's kind of the design. In addition, the community center will be a 14,000 square foot facility which will house a 77-child daycare facility, the senior site, as well as other community rooms to be used by the community at large. This will be, it's on 2.5 to about 3.5 acres that Hayes Medical Center is donating for this purchase. We purchased the other land, but they're donating this 3.5 acres for the purpose of the community center. So we believe that the seniors have had a struggle finding a place, and they're out kind of where it's not a great spot for them. It's going to be a challenge. We've got a lot of money to raise, and we'll be in front of you on that project as well, looking for support from the city, the county, and the private sector for sure, the local foundations. But we've got a game plan, and we believe this, obviously child care is a huge need in our community, and this will help meet that. And so that's part of the overall plan of the Grove, is this community center as well. I've talked long enough. You have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Early on in your talk, you mentioned you're going to make videos for YouTube and Facebook to
Right.
draw people in, and then you talk about how we're short on housing. Are we putting the cart in front of the horse? We're actively advertising to draw people without a housing infrastructure to support that.
I think we're making the moves to put the infrastructure in place and to put the housing in place. It is a hard, chicken and egg scenario. But I think if we can continue the pace at which we've been building, and if people like Mike and some other people can get some projects to come to fruition, I think we can get there. I get your point, but I don't think we can not continue to recruit and try and draw people to our community and wait for the housing, because it takes a long time to get either one accomplished. So I understand your point for sure.
Next question I have is a lot of what you presented is all new construction, which I applaud. But are you actively seeking to do remodels such as the St. Joseph School, the Washington School, the rest home in Victoria, stuff like that?
Absolutely. We're working with Jeff Pfeiffer on the rest home in Victoria. One of the videos we're producing right now are videos about the rest home in Victoria and the project as a whole. And we have Grow Hayes has a housing rehab program where we loan the money to a rehabber at 0% to rehab a house and put it back on the market. The problem we've had is everything's rented. Nobody wants to sell their house to be rehabbed because they can get good rent out of it. And so that's been a slower program. And so this is why we need to add more inventory to the market. But, and the videos, we actually have 6 videos made, one for Victoria, one for Ellis, 4 for Hayes, and then these 2 for Victoria Rest Home that we're making right now. So we're going to continue to actively recruit people. I hear what you're saying about the challenge of, okay, we've got them coming to look here, but we don't have any housing for them, but we're going to fix that.
Okay.
Mr. Burgess, anything?
No, all good stuff. The daycare center, that's on top of what the hospital is also. They're also doing an additional project themselves for their own daycare or some sort of project there, correct?
That's correct. They're putting in, I think, a 75 or 70 child facility for primarily, I think exclusively for their own employees. And they've actually asked us to allocate a certain number of spots in here in this child care facility if they need them, because they're concerned that theirs may not be enough for what their demand is.
As far as on percentages on the feedback from the community, what's that at? As far as on online?
As far as the Grove,
Yes, what people would like to see in our community?
I think the feedback has probably been 90% positive.
Good.
I've had a few naysayers, as you always have, that talk about we don't have the water or that kind of thing, but or they're too expensive, and whatnot. But overwhelmingly positive, I would say, Neil, in terms of what people have said. Had a lot of calls from people who say they want to be in there. The challenge is they want to be in there and they want this, and it's like, well, we're not quite ready for that. So I want this spot right here, and what's the house going to look like, and we're working through those kind of things.
And then out of the 11 new ones that you have, are those young people coming to our community? Are they mid-aged? And are they already employed here somewhere or in that process?
The 11 new ones.
That you had 11 new
Oh,
individuals that have moved in?
they're all over the board.
Okay.
Some young, some mostly young people.
Okay.
Mostly young people, and with good jobs in the community, but by and large, it's I would say if you go out there, you've got a decent range. You've got some retirees. But primarily it's mostly young people.
And as you were saying, everything we can do to help ourselves, as far as if it's a place for unloading trucks and any kind of improvement like that, if we can employ 8, 10 people, it's going to be a plus for us, which
Yep.
will help us out in the long run at the end.
I think so. We just have to do it kind of one at a time. That's how you have to build it.
Right. Anything else, fellas?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, DSNWK, Mr. Jerry?
Chairman, with DSNWK being my employer, I will recuse myself from this conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, good morning, Commissioners, everyone. Thanks for inviting me in to talk about our agreement that we had sent out first part of January. And I thought it might be helpful to explain maybe a little bit of background in terms of how our system is set up. I think maybe that will help. The agreement itself is a commitment, one-year commitment. It's been an ongoing commitment year after year for as long as I can remember. But as far as history is concerned, it probably takes us back 40, 50 years ago when basically out of a groundswell, people with disabilities were approaching, looking for community options because they just frankly didn't exist. And so out of that, I'll give you kind of the speedy version, out of that emerged community mental retardation centers, the CMRCs. We have High Plains are the CMHCs, community mental health centers. Okay, we kind of spawned at around the same time. Developmental Services was that entity for the Ellis County for sure, and the 17 additional counties that surround us all the way to Nebraska and California. Seems like it sometimes when you drive it. Colorado. So the CMRCs transitioned when the law changed in 1995-96. The Developmental Disability Reform Act kicked in, and we became a new acronym, Community Developmental Disability Organization, and we are the gatekeeper for our county and for our region. In the state of Kansas, I think I included, or did you all receive some information from us? I'm hoping that you did, maybe not. Oh, my apology. There are 27 community developmental disability organizations in Kansas. We cover that the northwest corner of it, and we, in terms or in addition to our relationships with our counties, this agreement that we put before you is very similar to the agreement that we put before each of the county commissions in the 18 counties that we have responsibility for DD services. We have a contracting arrangement with the state of Kansas through the Department of Aging and Disability Services. That's what facilitates the resources that come in to make our community service system work. Okay, that was a mouthful. I can dig into that more if you'd like, but it is a system that's rooted on core values, helping people to be integrated in the community, meeting their needs, and doing the very best with the resources that we have. I think I've presented to the commission our wait list. We have a significant wait list, not just in Northwest Kansas, but all across the state. 4,800 people, I think, is the current count, and their wait is 10 years. So there's a lot of additional need. I think about 145, roughly, are the members from Northwest Kansas that are waiting. So our role is important, but it really wouldn't happen if it were not for the relationships that we have with our counties. It's about local connection, local understanding of what the needs are, and that's part of our role in this. So the agreement that's before you that specifies the amount of commitment, that commitment was what you all had said you were going to put in, so we just embodied it into the annual agreement, and we will continue to move forward. Any questions? I kind of went through that pretty quickly.
No, just moving forward, what is it going to take to improve? I mean, is more money going to improve or cut the wait times? Is it what's it going to take on your end to make things work better?
Well, it's a great question, and it's one that the state, just this last session, has kicked into gear. They called for an interim process. They called it the IDD, Intellectual and Developmental Disability Modernization Committee. It's a joint committee of the Senate and the House, and they invited a few of their friends from different states to look at how do they manage. We operate under the Intellectual and Developmental Disability Waiver. It's a home and community-based services under Medicaid, but it's a system where state and federal government combine their resources to pay for community services. Okay, so we have a waiver for this population, and knowing we have such a big wait list, that modernization committee, which I was invited to be a participant in from the network, they're looking at something they call a community service, community support waiver, which is different than the waiver that we currently have serving the folks that are in the system now. And the hope is that will meet some of those needs that folks that are waiting have. It won't be the same waiver, but it certainly will. They're trying to design it right now to understand what are the needs first, and then develop kind of lest I call it an a la carte approach, but there may be families that need just respite. They just need help. There may be families that need help with transportation or whatever that might look like. So I think there was like 9 or 10 services that might be part of that. But I will tell you, it's a long-term process. So when they say, yes, we're going to do this, it's probably a year to 2 years out before it can actually run through the machine that engages the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid on the federal level, before that can actually be turned on. So it's a long process. It's an unfortunate process because our families are, I mean, can you imagine waiting for 10 years? So our families are learning that they're taking, when their kids are little, they're approaching and getting established on that wait list because they know it's that far out. So
Okay.
appreciate the question. Anything else?
Only thing I want to add a comment to, my sister worked there years ago. I don't know if you knew that DSNWK was also a place to, now my brother-in-law, they both worked there, so they're married, and I don't know if you knew that, but
I
here it
didn't know
is.
we had a matchmaking
A court-
service.
courtmanship, too.
No,
But yes,
I'm glad to
thanks
hear
for the
that.
great job you're doing and
Yeah.
informing us on everything that's going on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate the chance to be here, and it's the staff that make the world work in this arena. So thank you all for your
Thank you.
support.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Well, Chairman Younger, I moved we approve the agreement and sign it.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, Northwest Kansas Planning and Development, Mr. Randall Harabi.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to thank you for giving me a little bit of time to talk about the Regional Planning Commission. I want to congratulate the two new commissioners. I think I want to congratulate you anyways. Sometimes that's kind of a thankless job, but we do appreciate the new people. I am Randall Harabi. I've been the director of the Northwest Kansas Planning Commission. Actually worked up there for June 1, it'll be 35 years now. We are getting to the place now that I've turned 70 years old, so it's time to start a little succession planning to make the organization successful in the future. One of the things that happened 2 years ago, Ellis County chose not to be part of the regional organization by not paying their dues. And the dues are based on the county's assessed valuation, 1/10 of a mil. And it's been that way ever since the organization started 50-some years ago. For what that amounts to for Ellis County is about $40,000 for the dues, which is a lot of money, I realize that. But when you look at some of the grants and the business loans that we've done throughout Ellis County, it amounts to quite a little bit of money. I know we got the city of Ellis $1 million for their swimming pool. We've got them another $400,000 for water lines, and it seems like there's another $400,000 for maybe streets and stuff. And just the $4 million worth of grants alone that we've done over quite a few years, that amounts to Ellis County's dues for 100 years. And so the return on the money's considerable, but I do want to say that CDBG, is Community Development Block Grants, is not the only thing we do. We've got 3 organizations. The Planning Commission's the main organization, which is a regional planning commission for the 18 counties of Northwest Kansas, basically Russell County to the Colorado border and everything north of there. There are 7 regional planning commissions throughout the state of Kansas. And right now we're actually working on a federal grant to help coordinate the economic development funds that come through the state and with regional organizations. For an example, what we're trying to talk them into doing is, I mean, we get to talking about moderate income housing and all that other stuff, is some of that money would come from the state through the regional organization and then be allocated to various entities throughout our region. And part of the idea behind that is that as a region, we really know the projects are good projects in our region more so than sometimes when the state decides what gets funded, sometimes it gets a little political. And you know, you talk about the base grant that was funded, there's only 4% of that $100 million came to the 35 western Kansas counties. 40% of that money went to Johnson and Wyandotte by themselves. And kind of all you have to do is take a look to see where all the votes come from, and so that's kind of where the money flows. And so we're trying to even that out just a little bit, but that's something we're applying through from the federal government right at this point. We do have the Planning Commission works with cities and counties throughout the 18 counties, you know, mainly on projects through Community Development Block Grant, rural development. For an example, the new nursing home at Plainville that they're proposing, we're working with rural development on that project. And just have done all kinds of things throughout Northwest Kansas, millions of dollars worth of projects. We also have Pioneer Country Development, which is another nonprofit entity. It's got its own board, certified by the Small Business Administration to administer the SBA 504 loan. And we are the only CDC left in western Kansas. The others have been decertified at some point. So if, say, a person in Hayes or Ellis County wants a 504 loan, they've got to go through the CDC at Wichita. And I can tell you right now, the CDC in Wichita is not going to come out here to do a loan unless it's a big loan that they're going to make lots of money on it. So kind of our niche out here partly is working with a lot of the smaller businesses to help get them financed. Generally, PCDI will do, the very lowest I think we've ever done in 1 year is about $10 million in loans, and we have done $64 million in loans in 1 year. And most of them are loans that run, you know, between 100 and 250,000. They're generally for the smaller entrepreneur. The third organization is the Northwest Kansas Housing. I actually started that about 23 years ago. Again, it's a nonprofit certified housing development organization. We've actually built 140 single-family houses or duplex units throughout Northwest Kansas. You know, kind of compare that to the tall grass, and I mean, that's about twice as many houses that whole project is doing. The problem is that ours are scattered throughout Northwest Kansas. We've got 5 here, 5 there, 10 there. We did do the 10 duplex units in Ellis. Since they actually came out of the program, so we sold that to a private individual. We did have a deal made with Votech to buy the houses that they were building, and we actually did it for 3 years. 2 of the houses are sitting out on the Toulon exit out here. One is in Waukene. We did terminate that program strictly because we was losing money on it. We was losing $50,000 on a house by the time we bought the house, got it moved, got it set on a basement, and then the value of the house just wasn't there. So we kind of terminated that, and they just auctioned them off at this point. The Northwest Kansas Housing also works with, we've done numerous moderate income housing programs, and one of them that we're working on here in Hayes right now is with Dave Van Doren to turn some of the old Hadley Center into apartments. Again, his application was turned down last time too, and so we were actually reapplying for funding for that particular project. But the one thing that has happened, you know, since Ellis County chose not to pay their dues a couple of years ago, we don't do projects for nothing, I guess, in Ellis County. We've had several businesses that, you know, have come to us and want business loans. We do charge them a $2,000 fee right up front. And typically we would not do that to other businesses within our area. And also, the housing organization administers the Section 8 and tenant-based rental assistance programs. Them 2 programs funded just over the last 2 years was somewhere around $950,000 in rental assistance. We do have some tenants in Ellis County, but the board has chosen not to give any new tenants in Ellis County any rental assistance because of Ellis County not being a member. And so that's something that I would like to get started again. We actually had to turn some of the TBRA money back to the state because we didn't use it all. If we'd had Ellis County there, we could have used that rental assistance also. Basically, that's it. We have the Northwest Kansas Travel Council was actually started through our organization a number of years ago. They've kind of branched out on their own, other than we still do all the financials and bill paying and that type of stuff. I hope you kind of looked over some of the information that I sent out there a few weeks ago. And I guess at this point, I would like to ask Ellis County to consider rejoining the region, being part of the regional organization. And if you have any questions at all, I'm here to try to answer those.
Okay, I got several questions for you. Thank you for coming today and discussing it a little bit. So you said you had sent some funds back to the state that you were not able to use, correct? Right. There are 2 members from the Ellis County that are currently members, City of Ellis and City of Victoria. So were either of those communities contacted?
Those two particular counties are eligible for the funding, yes.
Okay,
I mean, yeah, I should have explained that, because when Ellis County chose not to, ever since they started, Ellis City has paid $3,500 dues, and that's kind of the minimum that we said any community would have to pay. Then the following year, we had talked to Victoria, because we had been working on that St. John's Rest Home with Piper on the development of that. Just because, I mean, there's 10 different pieces to that particular project. And, you know, one of the things that we have been talking to him about is the Community Development Block Grant Program. They completely changed it last fall, and one of the big items now is daycare. And so he has a piece of that, and so we've kind of been talking to him about the daycare and use of moderate income housing and a number of things. But I know Jeff has talked to Justine 100 times in the office, but yes, them two particular cities would be eligible for the rental assistance.
okay, so then why did we turn the money back to the state?
Evidently, nobody come to us that
Well,
wanted the rental assistance from them particular cities, yeah.
Okay. So somebody has to come to you,
Right.
you as a.
Generally, that's the way it happens, is somebody calls us and says, hey, you know, I can't pay my rent, and we've got to get their financials and do an analysis of it. But they generally come to us first, yes.
Okay. Second question is, I read through, and you've assessed a fee of a flat 40,000 as a max fee going in for Ellis County. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's kind of the upper limit. Generally, the bylaws have not been completely changed yet. I know when Butch had originally came one or two meetings that they had talked about putting a maximum on that, and so we've kind of said, well, 40,000 is probably kind of at the upper end, even though the tenth of a mil, I think, would only probably come to 43,000 or something like that. But you know, that's all up in the air. I mean, that's based on whatever the board of directors would require. You know, if they would want something smaller than that, I guess it could be set at that also. But
Well, how would that affect with like past years where they didn't pay, or future years?
that's where we got into a little problem a year ago. One of the things the board members said, that if a county comes and rejoins, they had to pick up the past year's dues. I think we're to the point now we would just like to get, I personally would just like to get Ellis County back on board, be a part of the regional organization, and forget the past 2 years, and let's just move this year and move forward and not worry about it. I know there was some discussion with Butch in the past about the money being short and everything, but so some of the ARPA money could have been used to pay the dues. I mean, that was an eligible activity, and so I don't think that was necessarily a big item last year. But
Mr. Burgess, anything?
A few questions. So, can you say, what is your, I guess, total annual budget?
our annual budget right now is somewhere right around 300 or 600,000. Excuse me.
Because our mill, I mean, that's based on evaluations and appraisals. So, you know, right now it'd be about a tenth is about 43,000, but we expect appraisals to go up, and you know, next year a tenth of a mill would be about 50,000. And so, I want your appraisals to go up, but as far as membership to this kind of organization, Ellis County is always going to continuously, that value and that price is going to continue to go up. So that's concerning, because I know as previous commissions, I mean, that's an expense. Our budget is very tight, and I don't think that's unique to the 18 counties. So I don't think the other counties are looking at it saying, well, our budget's tight too. But I think that was part of the original is looking at our budget and then seeing what we pay on that mill, and if the valuations continue to go up as they have the next couple of years, I mean, a flat fee now at 40,000, but if we come in next year with a tenth of a mill and we're looking at 50,000, that's a 20% jump, I think, if I did my math correct in my head. So that's a little concerning as far as just, and I'm certainly, I just going to say it outright, I'm not interested at all in paying any past dues. If we're not part of a membership for a year or two, you're just not part of that organization, and if you want to get back in the organization, you pay the dues that are requested of you. So how would you evaluate the dues then? So Ellis and Victoria do participate. If Ellis County were to join back in under our dues, would then Ellis and Victoria not pay dues?
That's
or-
correct.
Okay.
I will say that there are, I think, there's 3 counties out of the 18 that share the dues with the cities within their community.
Okay.
For an example, I think Sheridan County, I think the county pays 2/3 of the dues, and the city of Hoxie pays 1/3.
Okay.
I think the same in Cheyenne County, and Logan County's the third one that
Okay.
shares the dues with the cities within that. But that's strictly up to you on, I don't know how you would like to do that, but if Ellis County would pay the 40,000, we would not bill the city of Ellis or Victoria the 3,500 apiece for them.
So, and that's kind of the information I'm looking for here on those other 3 counties. You still assess the county as whatever their
Right,
mill,
right,
a tenth of a
right,
mill.
right.
But then they have an agreement between Sheridan
Between
County and
them two.
Hoxton, and they figure out what percentage.
That's correct, that's correct.
Okay.
And, you know,
But
Ellis County's a little different because you got several communities. You know, probably what I would do would be base it on the population. You know, what it amounts to. And some other regions do have their dues based on the population and not the assessed valuation. It comes to about the same thing. It comes to between $1 and $1.75 per person. It's about what it amounts to.
is on your different loan programs, I think this is a little bit of a conundrum with Ellis and maybe Hayes, is that sometimes we're not actually, by state guidelines, we don't sometimes fall under rule. Ellis County is kind of seen as an urban, so when we apply for certain grants, USDA grants and those kind of things, sometimes Hayes is left out, sometimes Ellis County is left out. And I think that was a little bit of the conundrum too, is of the 18 counties, sometimes Ellis, with some of your grant programs, or maybe the city of Hayes, just can't apply. Is that somewhat accurate?
It's somewhat accurate, other than you can do surveys for certain areas. For an example, I know we did a water line, I call it the mobile home park, kind of into the southern end of town a number of years ago. Well, all we had to do was survey that area, and as long as 51% met the low to moderate income, which they did, then I think that went through the city of Hayes, if I remember right, was eligible for a couple $100,000 on CDBG funds at that time. We did, they used to have an urgent need, and they quit it the last couple of years, but we did replace one bridge that was up on the Saline River in Ellis County. Got a couple $100,000 to do that one time. It was washed out, but that was an urgent need, and so we didn't have to do any kind of survey. But I guess my point is, as a county, you may not qualify as a complete county, but sometimes there's ways of getting around that by doing surveys and a number of other things.
Thank you for that.
I will say, excuse me, for one thing, one of the new things in CDBG is the daycare. And originally they said it had to go into a low to moderate income community. Well, they changed that. So now only 51% of the clients actually have to qualify to get those CDBG funds. So for an example, you know, if you wanted a couple $100,000 for a daycare, and they would have to just monitor that 51% of their children that came in there came from a low to moderate income household. And so, I mean, in that case, you know, anybody in Ellis County would be eligible for that daycare funds too, so.
It's kind of my question, I guess general thoughts are, for 2023, here's my thoughts for 2023. The budget's already set, to give respect to the last commission that already set this year's budget, and for me to be in meeting number 2 to say, yeah, we're gonna figure this out. I don't wanna put that direction on Darren to go sort through the budget to figure out how we're gonna pull from somewhere or where we're gonna get the funds to do it. So my thought for 2023 is to get the information that you provided us today, continue to think about it. My direction would be for Darren that we could very much consider it for 2024 and figure out where we're going to find it in the budget and what the value is and get some feedback. The feedback, I get kind of both sides. I've heard the feedback on some that, as the previous commission, that have kind of decided that it just, the value and what they got out of the value and the worth wasn't there. But when I go over to, and I'll just, the City of Ellis Commission counselors and people in Ellis, and that's the district that I represent, they very much told me that this is a very valuable organization to be a part of. So I certainly weigh that very heavily as far as considering bringing this back to the fold. I also think that, as you kind of indicated, there's some fees and stuff that you're certainly not helping Ellis County, but I think that's justification if the county's not being a part of it. You know, in Ellis County businesses or Hayes businesses, you're charging $2,000. So I think that's fair on your part. So if we could be a part again where we can help our businesses grow, where they don't pay those fees or whatever else, you kind of have to be at the table to participate. And right now, Ellis County is not at the table. And it's hard for me to say, well, I'm a commissioner and served on the city commission prior, that we're looking for growth, we're looking for business opportunities, we're looking for infrastructure opportunities. And so to not be a part of an organization that goes out and helps do those things, I think we're kind of turning our nose to it. So my mindset is that I'd certainly like to figure it out going forward, but I also want to make sure that we do get the value out of it. So that's kind of where my mindset goes.
One thing I might mention too is that, you know, according to some of the latest statistics in Ellis County, like 40% of the sales tax comes from outside the region. So, you know, in my case, it would be prudent for Ellis County to support the region where the region supports Ellis County in the additional taxes. I mean, if you cut 40% out of your sales tax, that would be a big.
And I would agree.
That'd be a big chunk for Ellis County.
I think there's a concern for Northwest Kansas as the region you represent. As you look at the latest census, you know, those counties are drying up literally and figuratively as people move away and elsewhere. And I think Hayes and Ellis County kind of has this mindset, well, they'll just probably move here. But again, if we don't have the housing and infrastructure and those kind of things, they can bypass us too. So
Right.
The health of the region is very top of mind too.
Yeah. And we were involved in the bypass, out by Hess and out there. When Philip Smith Haynes wrote that application, we were in contact with him, kind of giving him a little guidance along the way on what he needed to put into that too. So, but there's a lot of that stuff nobody ever knows that we're even involved in it. We're just kind of behind the scenes. So.
Okay. Gail, you have any?
We will
More
look at
questions?
it and see what we can.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the time.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you for.
Okay, noxious weed annual report, Mr. Gary Haas.
Morning, Commissioners. Gary Haas, Weed Control Supervisor. I'm here today with my annual eradication and progress report for 2022 and the noxious weed management plan for 2023. These reports are required under the noxious weed law by the Kansas Department of Agriculture for our approval. The eradication report includes a financial summary, a weed survey of 10 randomly selected sections, herbicide treatment and disbursement summary, and an enforcement summary. The 2023 management plan is a plan of our duties, our training, and our goals. Just a rundown, in 2022, we sprayed 6,400 acres of county right-of-ways along 1,340 miles of roads and all the other county properties. We did 1,640 acres of right-of-ways for KDOT, for the state, along 192 lane miles that we sprayed. We did 42 acres on city properties. We had 383 ticket sales of cost share chemical for 12,400 gallons, which treated noxious weeds on 81,775 acres. That was about half of what we normally would have sold, and it was pretty much in May and June, we were kind of having availability problems on getting the chemical in, so we had to kind of slow it down. And then right after we had it, then it got so dry that sales slowed down, and our fall musk thistle treatment slowed down because the pastures and stuff were so dry. We inspected and resolved 21 noxious weed complaints, and we spent 276 hours on tree and brush spraying and 77 hours of tree and brush removal on our county right-of-ways. Our pesticide container recycle program netted 136 30-gallon drums, 255-gallon drums, and 261 2.5s. So pretty much a rundown of our year. Any questions?
Yeah, on the sales, on the cost share sales, what type of stewardship goes out with the chemical as it leaves? Or is it going to commercial applicators? Is it going to private individuals?
Private individuals have to buy it. They have to be the landowner or the tenant. And yeah, they're signing the contract and the ticket. Yeah, it's going towards that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, we're up, we're down. What do you look for here in the future?
It's been kind of going down. I mean, we had this last summer, a lot more tillage took place. You know, our big sale is the bindweed treatment on summer fallow. You know, and that's something, Ellis County has a lot of summer fallow. Well, the summer fallow acres have went down because we're planting more fall crops, and, you know, we got more crops out there growing, and so, you know, the weeds aren't growing. And so there's less of that. I think the sales are gonna be going down. The prices have went up, and that's why our budget did increase a lot for 2023. I really anticipate, though, that the sales aren't gonna be there, and, you know, there will be a lot of money left in our budget at the end of 2023.
On the noxious weed portion, I know it's you know, defined by state. How much of that should be the county putting the chemical out there, and how much should be left to private individual to control their weeds and be more of encouraged to do it?
Yeah, it's required that we have the chemicals available for them. Since we are in this county, okay, if it took 1.5 mil or less to operate the weed department, we have to supply it at a 50 to 75% cost share. Okay, is the requirements on that. You know, we try to monitor it, and, you know, but when the person comes in and signs the ticket, says it's being used for noxious weeds, that's pretty much what we go by. With the short supply of last spring, I was going out and doing an inspection on every request for the chemical to make sure that there was a need, and
Okay.
that all went well. And that's part of why our sales were down a lot too.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably continue to do that for a while at the prices that we're having to pay for the herbicides.
Gotcha.
We could change in the future. We probably could put more of a cost of handling on the chemicals as we get them in. Right now, what we do is we charge 3% handling fee, and then we turn around and sell the chemical at 75% of that cost. So it ends up what they're really, it's really 78% of
Got it.
cost is what a person's buying it for. We could up those by putting a little bit more into what we see it costs for us to handle those chemicals. So we could look into that if you so desire.
Do you see in the future, if things change and the price of purchasing chemical through you at the county, at the Noxious Weed Department, if those prices go up, do you think your chemical usage will go down?
Probably not. It just depends. If they get to a level where more tillage is taking place, some of those operations on the fallow ground won't happen, and that's when it really kind of exploded a little bit, is when we went to more chem fallow and we had more operations out there treating bindweed.
Okay.
So if there's more tillage operations, it's going to come down. Only thing is about the tillage operations is it has surfaced more bindweed seed, and you see more bindweed. So I'm not totally sure on that right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I know when I have purchased chemical out there, you guys are pretty thorough on how many ounces you're putting down. So
Yeah.
kind of to answer that, yeah,
Yeah.
they are pretty strict out there. So
Right.
I appreciate that, and I'm
Right.
so,
You know, we're limited staff, so it's kind of
Yes.
hard to be able to monitor all the sales and go out and check up on everyone. But I mean, we try to. I know where it went, and I know, and I'm out there spraying roadside, so I can, monitor it as I'm doing another job. So,
Gotcha.
what we've
And
done.
then another thing, I know I've mentioned that last year, and I know you're after them, but the cedar trees along the sides of the bar ditch, if we can continue to do that, and I know you
I think
are.
we had a really good fall on them. We pretty well sprayed all of the, we did on the ones that are probably 7-8 foot tall and less. Larger than that, it takes kind of more, Road and Bridge is kind of after them, but there's just a lot of those areas where it's more than just my guy and me can go out there and do. And
Right.
a lot of the time, it's just my helper that's out doing it, and we can't really send him out with a chainsaw, so he's out with a Sawzall and just taking out the small ones is what we do.
And
But
that's-
we did really stop the little ones just with a treatment this fall. So I think you'll see, some of them that you still see green on now, come spring, you're gonna see they're dead. So we did get the whole county covered.
And that's the direction I was going, since we now have the shear, that maybe
Yeah.
possibly we can go after the larger ones where we don't
Right.
have to have a chainsaw, and, the safety aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Mr. Burgess?
Go back to the cost of chemical at the mill level. So if I'm looking at the budget right, it looks like our mill equipment was 1.36. And you said if it goes to 1.5, or the equivalent goes to 1.55,
Right,
you
right,
can start charging full cost.
Full
of
cost.
Chemicals. So that's,
right. This week I've been doing a lot of work on that, looking into that. The only problem is you take the cost share expense out of that, and then it makes it pretty hard to reach 1.5 or higher.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the benefit to the county would be we're recovering our cost of our chemicals,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Me as a consumer, though, if I'm buying my chemicals at 75%, now all of a sudden it's 100%, I guess, for the county residents that purchase the chemicals, is that a big negative? Is that a benefit?
It is.
out of that?
Most
Or,
of them,
as Nathan kind of alluded to, all of a sudden your cost goes up 25%. Do you just decide not to spray as much, or is it in?
I think most of the operators in the county will still spray. I mean, they see it as a benefit to them, and they're gonna do it anyway. It's just part of it for the ones that don't, and since we have to enforce the law and, have to get, it's kind of there. So if we're gonna enforce and make them spray it, well, maybe the county should be helping them along with the cost of it, is how I kind of look at it.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Anything else?
No?
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion, I move that the commission approve the annual noxious weed eradication progress report for 2022 and approve the 2023 management plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mike Liker.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Liker, Ellis County IT Director. Before you today is the 2023 CIC Peopleware Agreement. It's an annual agreement. For those of you who don't know, CIC is our ERP solution. What that means is all of our important big applications like financial accounting, tax accounting, payroll, timekeeping, those are all part of the CIC solution. We pay an annual agreement to CIC, a company out of Colorado, for maintenance and support. And that annual maintenance this year is $65,195. That's up $4,845. What happened there? In the past, CIC gave us 2 credits, one for using their online instant response support, and the other for their percentage of uptime or downtime, however you want to look at it. They have removed those credits to us, so that's the cause of the reason for the $4,800 increase. I guess that's inflation. I'm not sure. They didn't provide an explanation for why. I'm just assuming it's because of the economy. But so to you this year is I'm asking you to approve the annual Peopleware Agreement for $65,195 for 2023, and I would stand for any questions.
Yeah, Mike, is CIC, are they, do they go through an annual audit process to ensure the integrity of our information that they're handling?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe there is an audit process that happens, not maybe internally. I'm not aware of whether they do that or not.
Okay, do they offer any insurance in case of a breach of their system because of our information that's on there?
It's not included in their invoice. As far as I know, that is. I would have to check into that. I don't really know.
If you could relay that information, I'd be interested to see, just to secure the information that the county and our employees are having logged in there, just for their safety, to make sure that it's all covered.
Yeah, I would assume there is, but I don't. I would have to look for that to get that information for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael?
How long will we use this company and this software?
How long have we used them?
Yeah.
8 years, I believe.
2013.
2013, I guess it's 10 years now.
I just started then.
Time flies.
And I know you've been asked this question before. You're comfortable with it?
Yes. In the beginning, there was some rocky times. There were some glitches. Some of that had to do with the conversion of data, which is always the case anytime you move from one software platform to another. If you migrate the data, you have some problems with the way it appears in the new software. That was early on. There are things that users don't necessarily like about it. There are things that they do like. That's true of any application that you buy. When it's an application of this size, it's a little harder to just throw it away and get another one because you don't like certain things. But I have looked at other vendors in the past, for the past few years, and to see what they offer. And I speak with my peers around the nation. I belong to an international organization, and they all kind of say the same thing. There's complaints about, support, or there's complaints about, how the functionality is, or, increase in the fees. That's one thing I will say. This is really the first increase in our annual agreement for several years, so I have no complaints about that. For the most part, I think our users are happy with it. They are looking at an upgrade or an improvement to go more web-based or at least browser-based. They've asked us to participate with them or help them develop that, or not develop it, but figure out what that should look like. We were gonna go out and visit them early on. Was that in November, I think? They had to change their plans there, but I'm assuming we're still invited out to help them with that process. So, you know, they're looking to improve, which is something I've been waiting for. They've been telling me they're making these improvements for 10 years now. So it's a long time coming. But overall, I think it's a good application, as good as whatever else is out there on the whole. So
They also, do they have a help center in case that?
Yes.
something- Okay.
yeah, that's part of the credits that they used to give us, that instant response. They do have a call center, a help desk. They don't want us to call them on the phone. They want us to submit a ticket through their ticketing system, which I understand. So now we're educating our staff not to call them, because we will now be charged for that. So we've only had, by their statistics, 4% last year actually called. So that's, well, I think it's 2% actually. No, it's 4%. That's probably about 4 people. So we're educating our staff not to call them, but to use the instant response. But yeah, they do have and they've been pretty good, I think, with the help desk. We have our staff call my office first to make sure it's not an internal problem, a computer or a network issue. And then if it isn't, then we encourage them to click the instant response button and submit a ticket. It takes a picture or a snapshot of the error or whatever they have and submits that to them. So that process works pretty good, and I think they're pretty responsive to those tickets. So overall, I think I've been happy with it. So
As we move forward with this, my place of business where I work, we are now having to log on to our computer with our phone. Do you see this coming in the county here?
very, very soon,
Okay, very good.
in the next
Good plan.
couple of weeks. So.
Does too, but then I forget my phone at home. I
Yep,
gotta-
that's,
Yes. Yeah, we're working on a multi-factor authentication process right now. Actually, again, very, very, within the next couple of weeks, we will be going live with that agency-wide. We're rolling it out by department. But yeah, the multi-factor authentication has been proven to, well, the experts say it blocks 98% of breaches. So that most definitely.
because I believe Fort Hays State's been on it for several years now, and that's where we got our information and jumped into it. And
Yeah.
everybody likes it, like we say, like Mr. Burgess said, that when you forget your phone, you're,
Used to be where you forgot your office keys, you'd be like, oh, I can't get one now. If you forget your phone, you can't get into anything, so.
We will provide an alternative if you do forget your phone.
Small detail, but you may have them update their information as far as who our county administrator is.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing issue.
Press.
It seems to always be the previous administrator. We tell them, and I don't know, it's got to find the right person, I guess, that can make that change.
Okay.
okay. Any questions or discussion anymore?
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll move that the commission approve the payment of PO 7711 for 2023 CIC People Wear Agreement.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Mr. Darren Myers, Western Kansas Delegation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. If I may first just add on to the CIC agreement, just for a little history, our policies state for certain contracts in the county that the county administrator has the authority to re-sign and approve the payment for contracts as long as the renewal agreement does not exceed 10% of the prior year's contract. The CIC agreement, which if you ask staff, it's been kind of funny because the commissioners they didn't really like the payment of this. You know, it's basically a payment for services that you don't really see unless you need them. But it was requested that Mike continually bring this to the county commission each year. And we were just wanting to get clarification on policy that for situations like that the commission would agree that we continue to follow or start to follow what our actual policy says, that as long as any continued agreement is not in excess of 10% of the year before, nor is there any requested change from the commission or the staff, that we just automatically approve those. There are several throughout the county. We have maintenance agreements on equipment, like our public safety radio systems that exceed these amounts, but they're automatic agreements that if we choose not to do it, we'd be out of compliance with laws with KDOT on equipment. For instance, Mike's CIC agreement, if we didn't pay it, we would lose the ability to tax, to appraise, to pay payroll. So there would be a long process that we'd have to plan to not, if we didn't pay it. So just asking that we don't need to continue to bring those unless the commission sees something different or a change of policy, which we can also do as well.
I would agree to that unless there's a change of services that's included in those agreements.
Change to the agreement, yeah.
A change to the agreement that needs to be noted.
Yeah, that's fine with me. That's,
Then moved on to the next item is the 2023 Western Kansas Congressional Delegation. I sent the information to the commissioners, and there's some information within your packet in regards to the different cities and counties wanting to participate and sponsor the delegation being sent to Washington, D.C. in April. We had a conference call yesterday, and took my sticky note away. Between Barton, Finney, Ford, Seward, and Ellis County, each county has county commissioners, city commissioners from different areas, their chambers of commerce, and then local businesses within the county that participate at various levels depending on what the legislative issues or priorities are of that year. For instance, some of the businesses in Ellis County that have went in the past are Fort Hays State, Midwest Energy, Sunflower Electric, the Chamber, Grow Hayes went last year. But they participate in different levels, like I say, depending on what the issues are at the current time that need to be discussed with the different staff in DC or different departments that may be have of interest, like KDOT, or not KDOT, but Department of Transportation. So the trip this year is planned for April, and I know I've sent it out individually, but we sent out the initial agreement that Ellis County would continue to sponsor it, which is only several $100s as part of the county agreement. But I was just wanting to see if the commission would, if any of the commissioners are interested in going this year. And we don't necessarily have to have a date today, but I just wanted it out there that I think I mentioned it to Commissioner Burgess. They don't need the information till the end of the month, but at least put the information out there that this is being considered. And if you want to go, last year, as the commission is aware, Commissioner Younger and myself went, and we had Doug Williams, Commissioner Burgess with the city, Commissioner Barrick, Reese, and Toby, Sarah Wassinger, and but we ended up going, and as a result of that, full credit, I think with Senator Moran's help, we ended up getting $2.8 million in additional funding for the Northwest Business Corridor project. And hopefully soon we'll be able to give you an update on the FEMA disaster from the December 2021 fires. We are starting to get approval for reimbursed expenditures for that fire as well. So it was a very good benefit for us to go. And they, within the meeting yesterday, they were thinking about reconsidering the way the format is done. Instead of going out to DC every year to help lower the cost, is 1 year is all the congressional delegation goes out there to DC to meet, and then the following year is we invite everybody to a local host community and have meetings locally, and that's kind of the format that looks to be into the future. So I guess with that, any questions, or if you know if you're interested or not?
I cannot go. I would like to, but I cannot.
Mr. Burgess?
I'd be interested, yeah, no commitment at this point. I gotta continue to watch my schedule, but I think it's worth at least, a couple $100 as far as being a sponsor. And as far as going in person, I'll be interested in kind of make that determination at the end of the month. My comments, I did participate last year as a City of Hayes rep. I think when you get your national representative, Marshall Moran, in there on their turf, they do listen. I think as you showed last year, we got some funding for Ellis County out of it. When they come back to the state, they kind of do their listening tours and stuff, but it's very hard to kind of get their attention at that point. So this is an opportunity to, again, be on their terms and kind of get their attention for an hour and give some very specific needs that we may have. So I think from that standpoint, I think it's well worth it. Personally, Washington, D.C. is not a city I enjoy that much, but again, that's not really why we go to vacation in Washington, D.C. It's to see our delegation there in person. And I think they, as you mentioned, they did have that delegation, I think, in Garden City and that was, I think, more for COVID reasons, but they did have Marshall and Moran, I think, in Garden City or somewhere for a day, and then the delegation went there. So I think if they do that, instead of going to D.C. every year and kind of committing to that, if we went to D.C. this year and then wherever that delegation's held, it'd certainly be easier to get more people to that. So again, that's my interest is yes.
Okay, well, if you do choose to go, I guess you're going to have to represent Ellis County, because that Sunday I'll just be flying in from Florida. Darn, but anyhow, otherwise I would love to go to represent Ellis County again. It was great. There were some of them that we visited with, and off to the side, I'd always tell them the wow word, and they said, "What's wow?" And I said, "Everything west of Wanamaker, we get nothing," but it proved right here, face to face is the way to do, and it did work. But maybe next time. But anyhow, okay.
Yep, I'll touch base with you here in a few weeks to see if, make sure that it works before we reserve any rooms or hotel or flights and all that. And then I'll confirm it, and then we'll book it if we need to.
Okay, Mr. Darren Myers again with the fence options.
As the commission is aware, several weeks ago, we came before you in regards to a solution to add a fence to protect our equipment here at the administrative building around the new chiller and generator that's being installed, as well as at the law enforcement center. And the commission at that point asked that we reconsider the types of material to install the fence to make it look good. The original plan was to go chain link, and then staff decided, I brought to you the thought to go with wood, and due to durability of it not looking good, or how long it would last and the maintenance that it would take, the commission asked to bring back some different options to give you a better idea where the fence would actually be located and some material options. So one thing, as you see in your packet, that's the updated idea of where the fence would be located around the equipment outside in the red box to encompass the chiller and the generator. And we looked at some different options. As you can see, in the middle of that is where the dumpster for the trash is parked at. We thought maybe we would have enough room cut in there that we could basically create it like an L shape, I guess, and leave that dumpster hidden back there. There's not enough room, plus when the dumpster gets dumped back in there, who knows how many times it's actually going to hit and damage the fence. So, in speaking with Greg, our Buildings and Grounds lead technician, we're going to put that dumpster across the alley, which will be easier actually for the trash roll-off service to be able to pick it up, and it won't be, and they're there usually 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, so there's no vehicles over there. With that location, we had a meeting with myself and with the commercial builders and RDH, or not commercial builders, Joe Glassman staff, and looked at the determination, because the commission had asked of whether we needed a 6 or an 8 foot fence, and then if we needed any type of ventilation through the fence to help with the air movement around the chiller and the generator. And as the commission saw, I passed out some booklets, I guess you would call them, on what we had came up with. It's a slatted aluminum type fence that can be either installed 6 or 8 foot tall. And with the equipment that'll be out there, it's going to be at least 8 foot tall. So if the commission's desire to try to hide and privatize or make a privacy fence around that equipment, the 8 foot option would be the better to try to hit most of it or to cover most of it. I guess before I move on to the next picture, is there any questions in regards to where that one is actually going to be?
Where are you going to move that dumpster to? Any idea yet, or is that still in the planning
We
part?
talked about eliminating this one. I don't know if you can really see it
Okay,
there. Removing that stall there,
Okay.
and then that way there's more room, because this is a one-way alley going from west to east. The trash truck could come straight in, go down the alley and back up. Currently, they have to do a U-turn in the parking lot to back up to where it is now and do reverse access or to get to it, because they have to face west the wrong way down the alley. So we thought about there, and then the other idea was where this pole is at. But then we'd have to do some repainting and relocation of the handicap stall that's required to be there for the amount of parking spaces that we have. So one of those 2 locations, most likely it would be this one right here. However, this one is nicer because it's closer to the exit door for the building.
okay, I'm just concerned about the center one. When he's pulling it in, you know, I know how them guys are with, they try to back right up to it so they don't KO our fence right away, so.
Yeah, they
that's-
would be out of the way. This isn't
Okay.
necessarily to scale, but can't see my mouse very well on here, but they would be clear out in this area backing
Okay.
up into that dumpster if it was down there. Over here, yes, at that, where that pole is at, they're
Yeah.
more closer to where that fence is going to be. It's more, I guess, of a tighter space. And like I say, Greg says they usually show up at 5 a.m. There's usually no cars in that parking lot, no matter which way we face it, but I think out of courtesy, it would be nice just to let them go with the flow of traffic and
Yeah.
not make them do a U-turn and drive through the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Then on the next picture at the law enforcement center, I zoomed out a little bit because I actually wanted to share something extra in addition to the commission on this and outside the fence project, but this is the law enforcement center on the left edge of your page and the Hayes Public Library on the right. In the middle there is a rock garden which houses a lot of electric lines, plumbing, sewer, or there's a lot of lines that are coming out there. And there's, I guess, a decent amount of traffic that that could come through there, and that's one of the reasons why K-Camp has our insurance carriers kind of suggested that we put a fence around there to protect our equipment and protect people from walking through there. One thing in visiting with Glassman, when Greg's visited with Glassman, is our chiller location. I'll zoom in here. It's going to be pixelated. Our current chiller is right here. Due to the lengths of the line set, you can only have your chiller so far away from your units that location is too far for those lines. So the new chiller is actually going to be right down here where the green box is at. So the fence would actually line up straight with that basement entrance going down to the basement of the law enforcement center. And it would come through there and cut, through the parking lot and then back around and follow the fence all the way around to the north edge of that rock garden. And within your packet there was another option for a fence. Only 6 foot is recommended there. We don't need anything larger. And the idea was to somewhat match the fence that is along that basement stairwell, so that way it kind of matches, I guess, in sense. And the option that we came up with was a suggestion of a fence that will look somewhat is like out at the Arc Park on Indian Trail, not Indian Trail, 33rd and
Yeah.
Walnut or Hillcrest. But the fence would be similar to that, and the option there is how thick the commission would like to have the pickets. You can go with a 3/4 inch steel post, I guess the picket, but the post that's in there, It's a little less durable, be easier to, if somebody leans up or rams a bike up against it, then it may get some deflection or dents into it. Or go with a 1-inch style size picket. It's only a little bit bigger, but it'll be more durable and last longer amounts of time.
Especially if we're doing it out here with 8 foot, 6 ain't gonna be near as pushy, but out here, yeah, I can see that.
Well, we're talking two
Right,
different
right,
fences.
Right.
Yeah, the fence out here would be more of a privacy
Yes.
fence. You can see in the packet, there's colors that you can choose. The color, I guess we're suggesting to go is kind of the color of the wall, the beige, which would match the exterior of the building. But there are other colors that you could go with. I mean, a pure white, but, those do show dirt and everything, so the beige would help hide that. And then the metal fence at the law enforcement center would be black.
Match.
And then the options that you would suggest, we'll open it up, allow any vendor to bid on it that is willing to bid on it. We just need these specifications for, if you want a 6 or an 8-foot fence, the color, we can put all those specifications into the RFP, and then whoever wants to bid on it can bid on it. There's no vendor selected at this point.
Okay.
So I guess just to help with the questions is, would you like a 6 or an 8-foot fence at this building? And is that type of fence with the slats for air movement and the beige color okay?
I think it needs to be 8 foot.
I think so. The 8 foot that way it'll hide everything that we can,
And there's nothing on the city ordinance side where we'd have to file something for an 8 foot?
Nope, so you can do, for commercial, we can go right up against the property line and the size don't matter. I believe you can even go taller with commercial, according to a vendor that we talked to. But if we went with a taller type fence, then we'll have to change the type of fence. And the types of fence, they make, I believe one option that you brought looked like a rock panel fence. They can go a lot taller, but they're solid, there's no air movement. They help with sound, but now you're encompassing all that equipment into a solid box, essentially.
I think an 8 foot
Mhm.
airflow fence that matches the exterior of the building as close as we can is the best option.
and plus we get air underneath as long as we can, that way everything will blow through too, so.
Mhm.
Because that's at an angle too, because it's probably gonna look funny at first, but, is what it is.
So I'm
Michael?
hearing an 8-foot
Yeah,
fence
no,
with the
I mean,
metal slats?
Back to the admin fence thing again, there's a handicap spot there to the north there.
Correct.
How is that gonna be handled? Is that,
That picture actually might be old,
okay,
because when we redid the parking lot out there and had it restriped, I keep using my mouse like I'm trying to point to something, but you can't see it. I believe that's all gone.
Okay.
And if it's not gone, I know those last couple spaces are not painted because of us waiting on this project. So once it does get repainted, that handicap spot and the additional parking stalls that room will allow for will be added back in there.
okay,
But if you do go out there, those last couple stalls are not painted.
okay.
I believe there's 2 in the center now, if I remember right. I think.
You're right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope, that's good. Put it together.
And then do you want a 3/4 or 1-inch?
I would say 1 inch
Yeah, 1
if we're in agreement on that.
Okay. And then the style of the fence that's there, do you have any preference? I know on the left side of that picture, there was several different design options.
It's his building.
I couldn't tell you if there's any cost differences between one's design or the other. I'm guessing the top is probably the more basic, and the farther you get down on there, probably adds cost. But the basic fence that's there already is just a solid top and a solid bottom. There's
Yeah.
nothing decorative to it.
I guess as I'm thinking about it, I don't know if you want a solid bar. I don't know how many people want to climb in, jump into something, but if it's a solid bar, it's easier to grab on. If it's kind of a picketed fence, might discourage people from, I don't know why they'd want to, but who knows why anybody does anything, so.
The sheriff actually requested that we put Constantine wire around the top, so.
So, but,
But if you, yeah, we can, if there's an option there, just mark the one you like, and we'll
okay.
just kind of include that in the process, that this is the kind of the ideal type fence that we're looking at.
We were just
I'd
talking
say-
about
Yeah.
what style, if it means anything, if you want to.
No, I think as long as we kind of match up at the law enforcement center with the stairs like we talked, and then the air breathable here.
And just for clarification, this is an approval of the project. We'll put it out for bid, and then once we do get bids, hopefully we do get bids that come back, it'll be brought back before the commission for approval.
And I guess too, the
Yep.
other thing to consider is what's the availability on it with the way the world is. If we choose something
Time
out of
frame.
the orange, yeah, we'll be
That'll-
looking into 24 to get a fence, so.
Well, I guess when does it need to be, because our generator and chiller is not even all here yet, correct?
The chiller's here. We actually have a final testing meeting, I believe, this week on it. And the generator, when we ordered it, I think was 55 to 58 weeks out. So we're still probably 40 to 45 weeks out on that. But that'll be installed afterwards. And the commission is aware that you've also given us guidance to go through the bidding process to replace the generator at the law enforcement center, which it's inside this fence there, but they'll have to crane it and lift it in there anyway, so it wouldn't really impact as much.
Okay, the only other thing I would add is if the fencing material is too far out, that if we get the generator installed and stuff, that we maybe look at temporary fencing until then.
We could. I believe when Greg asked them that the temporary fence, or putting up a new fence wouldn't hinder them coming back in and lifting the new generator over top of it.
Okay. Okay,
So
that's all I would ask, is that if
we'll confirm that, though.
Okay,
That way we're not tearing something down just to.
right. We don't want to get in front of ourselves.
Yep.
And is this something that we could consider, not saying that us three commissioners are going to make the choice? Is it an option that we could get all the head departments together and also look at this? They're coming in this building every day for the appearance. Is that something that we could get their opinion on also?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to scan that picture that's in there and make sure that there's nothing from everybody within this building sees any conflicts with.
All right, thank you.
I agree to that, so, okay. I guess go ahead and proceed then with
Yeah.
sending that out.
We'll add that in. The next thing that I wanted to kind of just use the picture here to explain, especially since we have two new commissioners, is if everybody knows where the library's at on that building, the nice clean roof. And then you have the roof to the west of that, which is the top of the law enforcement center. And you see that's all ductwork. Back more than a year ago, Ellis County had that large hailstorm that came through, and the K-Camp hailed out and totaled our roof. And in that process, the sheriff, myself, and Greg Herbert has met several times we hired an architect, the commission approved an engineer to figure out what we can do to replace that roof. That roof has, I believe they say, 178 different penetrations. And when you have that many penetrations in the roof, you have roof leaks. And then part of the other problem is you have all of the exposed ductwork that are on that roof that is daily exposed to the sunlight, and then not daily, whenever it hails, it's going to continually get damaged. So we have met with the architect several times. It's been quite the lengthy process. But we had one design that we brought back to the commission that to put a whole new metal roof in the building. Is going to be a pitched roof. It's going to have dormers on it. It didn't look good, but it was the option to enclose what you see there and make it look, protect the roof, protect all the equipment. We came back, had too many issues with that. It just didn't look well for the historical area. So we met with the engineer, we came back, and if you look at what you see at the library, they came back with the design to put, that's called a mansard roof. It's got a faked pitch roof around the edge, and then on the center, it's not flat, it's actually sunken back down. And you see that there's very little penetrations on their roof. The only thing that is brought up off the roof below that are your rooftop units. And then you just reattach them to where they're sitting now to where the new roof is. When we looked at that option, the engineers came back at our building and at the law enforcement center. The wind load surprisingly changed quite a bit, and it would have required us to put basically metal or concrete columns from the roof down through the basement at an estimate of over $3 million just for that piece of it alone, plus the roof. So since then, we've changed it to the final design, and Greg and I met within the last couple of weeks, is to basically elevate the roof by about 5 foot with a metal flat roof with basically you just come up on the end, you come over about 4 feet, and then you sink it back down. Reduces the wind load, it's not as tall, and then we'd be elevating the rooftop units, and we'd be covering all the equipment that's in that, all the ductwork, et cetera. So I just wanted to give the commissioners at least a heads up, since, like I said, the two commissioners are new, that we're getting close to bringing that project back. The architect and engineer will be getting us build specs to be able to put it out for bid, hopefully maybe by the end of this month. But like I said, we did receive insurance proceeds that will help pay for a majority of it. And then when we had the remodel of that facility back from I don't remember the beginning year, but it's sales tax sunset in 2015. We still have about $500,000 set in a separate fund specifically for that building to be able to use for projects such as this for that. One of the other instances that we have planned to use that money for potentially is the replacement of the elevator in that building that wasn't done in the remodel, but that's the funding source for it, and you'll be seeing that come up in the near future. But if the commissioner would want to go up there, I have some pictures on my phone the last time we walked up there. That doesn't look quite as extravagant as what is actually up there. There's a lot more that the picture doesn't pick up. So that, just want to give you a heads up that that'll be coming before your commission in the coming months as a potential project.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Okay, and the outside agency reports, Darren?
I think this is my last one. I just wanted to also get clarification, since we have two new commissioners, on what type of communication the commissioners would like to see come out of my office to those individuals that request funding through the county commission and property tax dollars. It was a prior commissioner's intent that when we communicate with those outside agencies, which are listed in your packet, that those outside agencies are required to come back and give at least some type of update to the commission of where those tax dollars are going, how they're being used, the projects that they're helping provide, or some of the results that they're seeing. And, for 2023, that was $1.2 million that the commission is allocated for those outside agencies. Last year, about 7 or 8 of those didn't even show up, wouldn't respond to email requests to come to the commission to give updates. Several of them, as the commission is well aware, that even if you were to ask or not, they would still show up. Grow Hayes, High Plains Mental Health, DSNWK, several of those show up on an annual basis, or a regular basis. I believe either next week or the week after, the Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center will be here to give updates as well without even being requested. So I just wanted direction from the commission, from the new commission, as to if you want that practice to continue, to have me request that they come and give some type of an update throughout the calendar year, besides only when they ask money in June for the next calendar year.
Gentlemen, I think it's accountability of taxpayer dollars, and I think that we need to have those agencies that are receiving funding show up at least once and account for how the funds are being spent or used. And if they don't, I feel that there should be some ramifications.
Burgess?
Oh, I don't know. Yes, there should be accountability, having them, I guess, in a way, required to come before us. I get that can be, these nonprofits are run by, many of them by individuals that's not their forte, is to try to be in front of people, and I think that can be a little bit of a staring down a bullet but so requiring them to come before us and try to give their update. They should want to, if they're proud of their organization and what they do, and I think they all are, Grow Hayes and DSWK, there's no reason for them not to really come tell us what successes they're having or challenges or whatnot. But require them to stand there, I guess I'm not fully on that now. Some sort of communication, whether that's, to me, it could be as simple as an email. This is our organization. This is the funding that we got from the county. This is what our organization does with that funding. Here's how many people we serve in Ellis County and what we did with the funding. Some sort of communication is certainly appropriate, and if they don't even want to communicate that way, then yeah, I can see where we take that into consideration. But, so that's kind of where I'm at, I guess, as far as how they communicate to us. I guess I'm up in the air a little bit. I don't know. So.
Okay. My belief is, if they can come here and ask us and use taxpayer dollars, I think they should be required to come back and revisit us, whether it be once, twice. Some of them are going beyond that. So that's my opinion on it. I would rather see them come back and visit us and tell them how and what they have done with the funding, just like Mr. Nate said. So that's the way I would like to see it go.
And I guess, a little clarification, I don't want to require them. I would like them to come voluntarily.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're required to be here, but if the only time we see them is budget allocation time, that's going to weigh very, very heavily. And I think they should want to be here to express their what they're doing.
They should be thankful. Like I say, before I ran for commission, I seen that going on, and I thought that was one of the things that I would like to see them come back and revisit. So I'll put it a little different than required revisit us to inform us.
Well, and just, I guess for clarification too, I don't think I've actually used the word required that they come back, but probably the more appropriate term is that I could use the term that the Ellis County Commission requests that you give an update throughout the year, and then we'll see what they do, or if they don't. And then when it comes to their budget presentations, you still have time to be able to visit with them at that point before you make final allocations later in the year, come August. So you'll still have the opportunity to visit with them at their budget hearing or their budget presentation request, and then you still have several months to make a determination after that based on what you see.
What do you guys think?
And that's fine. I think one letter should be suffice. I don't want you to play babysitter and try and, you guys haven't come. I don't want you to have to chase them down to, make sure they know about it. I think it goes out one time or maybe a second follow-up is about it, but I don't want you to have to run after these places to do it. I mean, some of them are coming in voluntarily on a regular basis and others not, so I don't think we need to utilize your time doing that. So I think that's just something that you need to put a letter together and it goes out once.
I can do that.
Good with that, Michael? Okay. Okay, Mr. Bill Jeter, the road acceptance.
Bill Jeter, County Councilor. Looking at the agenda, I kind of thought this was the most interesting thing on the agenda. I'd like to thank Dave and Scott for hanging around. Apparently, nobody else thought so.
Save the best for last.
Plating process and primarily focusing on roads and what commitments the county may or may not make to constructing or improving roads. And I'm going to this isn't going to be very long. I'm going to divide it into two sections. One would be properties that are out in the county, and the other part of it is properties that are in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, primarily around the city of Hayes. So properties that are out in the county are, the plating process is governed by the county zoning regulations. Also, the Kansas statutes require that before the plat is filed in the Register of Deeds office, it must be approved by the governing body or the county commission. So the county historically has always approved those plats. We don't have them very often, but when we do, the county does approve them. We have had a situation that came up a couple of years ago where we had an older plat where the county had been maintaining the roads but never approved the original plat. And that created an issue as in regards to what the county should be doing going forward with that particular addition. But in any event, our regulations now allow both private or public roads within a plat. Blue Sky Edition would be one that's got private roads. And as part of that process, the county requires, and if it's going to be dedicated to public purpose, it needs to meet county specifications when it's constructed. But I think going forward, and the point of my presentation is, when the county accepts a plat for a property or development which is out in the county, the commission should consider adopting a resolution which is going to set forth exactly what the county commission at that time's intention is in regards to either building and or maintaining going forward the roads within that plat. And also as part of that, consider the roads that may need to be built and maintained that connect to the platted property. And that way, when we get 10 or 20 years down the road and we've got new county commissioners, new staff, we've got a record of what the county, in any event, at that time had agreed to do. Keeping in mind that the commitment to maintain roads is always discretionary with the county commission at that time. So you can't commit a future county commission to a degree of maintenance. You may have committed the county to maintain a road, but that degree is up to the commission at that time. In other words, if it's an asphalt road, whether to do a chip seal or not. You can't commit a future county commission to make that decision. That would be that county commission's. Now, as relates to the developments in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, primarily around the city of Hayes, historically the city's zoning regulations required that the county, both the city and the county, approve those plats. The new development plan that the city has does not require the county to approve a plat. So if you have a plat comes forward that's approved by the city commission, that's then filed in the Register of Deeds, it's in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, there may be roads within that plat that are dedicated for a public purpose. Even though it's in the county, because the county has not accepted the plat, the county has made no commitment on doing anything with those roads, either in a way of constructing them or maintaining them. So if the commission in the future would, or currently, whatever it may be, have a commitment to maintain a roads that's in a plat that's in the ETJ, or even constructed, or some agreement in regards to building accessory roads that connect to the plat, the county, in my thought, should adopt a resolution that spells out exactly what the county intends to do, so that we don't have an issue that comes up in the future on what the county's going to do. Because a lot of these plats, the development process takes years. And that's something that we haven't done in the past. But I think we had some issues come up with the Blue Sky Edition. We got a current development plan that's in the ETJ from the city that the county doesn't sign off on anymore, that's got some roads dedicated for public use that the commission hasn't committed to do anything with. And I think if we do, that we need to do that by way of resolution. So that's it. Anybody have any questions?
So if we want to do something with them, we need to do a resolution, but do we need to do a resolution
Well-
if we do not want to do?
No.
Okay.
Well, if it's out in the county, we still do, because we have to approve the plat if it's in the county.
Correct.
Otherwise, it can't be recorded in the Register of Deeds office. So we need to probably define by resolution exactly what we intend to do with that property. If it has private roads, then obviously we don't, by accepting the plat, we're not accepting to maintain private roads. And I think it needs to be clear to the developer, if we're going to in the future, they need to be constructed according to county specs. But we may have an issue as to an accessory road leading to that plat that may need to be built, and obviously it would be, for public use, it would be in the county. The county may even have to acquire a right-of-way, depending on where the plat is.
Okay.
And all those things would factor in whether you're gonna approve the plat to begin with. But in addition to just approving the plat, I think there should be a resolution setting out exactly what this commission is agreeing to do.
Okay.
Not necessarily binding a future commission. Well, let me go back a little bit. Once the county starts maintaining the road, according to an attorney general's opinion, then we're obligated to do that going forward. But again, that level of maintenance is discretionary with the county commission.
Okay.
Now, when it's in the ETJ, we don't approve the plats now, so you could have a plat filed that dedicates roads for a public purpose within that plat. Because we're not signing the plat, we haven't accepted to do anything. So if we don't, then that's fine, just leave it. If we are agreeing to be involved in either construction of those roads or maintaining them going forward or providing some access to the development and maintaining that access road, then I think the commission needs to adopt a resolution spelling out exactly what we're agreeing to do. So that's beneficial to the developer and for future county commissioners and staff to know what commitment the county has made.
I don't know, I got a question, but I don't know how to ask it. So if within that ETJ, the city of Hayes, they plat it and they build it out, if we were to, some reason, agree to build it to county specs, but if it's annexed back to within the city, then wouldn't that?
Then we're out of it.
Then we're out of
anyway.
it, correct?
Right.
So it's only
Right,
outside of city limits,
which could be
ETJ.
a factor for the commission deciding whether we even want to accept any responsibility for those roads at all.
Yeah.
Knowing
Yeah,
that 2
they
or
would-
3 years down the road, it's probably going to be annexed by the
Annexed in, that's-
city, so
yeah.
why do we want to get
That's where I
Yeah.
guess, that's kind of where I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out. My question is, why would we build a road or help them get it to specs and then gets annexed? and they
That's
got a free
just
ride?
a
Okay.
case-by-case decision that the county commission would need to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I will
Next time
speak-
I'll ask Darren to move you up a little further, okay, Bill? He didn't
But
hear
I,
it.
but I think
Did
it's
you hear that?
wise to have
Huh?
you.
I said, next time I'll have Darren move you up a little further.
Oh.
In regards to Michael's question, I will add, if there's a road that's built and then the city annexes, one issues that we have in the past is in regards to who actually would maintain it. There are several instances where that's actually happened. The county doesn't own the right-of-way, the city owns the land underneath the road, so several instances we have throughout the area, like 48th Street, north of Walmart, 27th Street, 13th Street, the city will only annex half the road, but then the county will still maintain it and fix it and repair it and push snow. So it creates not really a conflict, but who's truly responsible if this side of the yellow line is the city and this side is the county. It's foolish that one vehicle or the other well, we're only gonna do this side, but, the county will be here in 2 hours, they'll do the other side. So it creates a little conflict there that I think that between the city and the county, I think we need to work out some areas to fix those.
That's right. If we can get, like say, get in touch with them and get a working relationship with them, like say, so we don't have half and half and.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, Mr. Darren, County Commissioner or Administrator report, please.
I have nothing. I will visit with you each later this week in regards to our upcoming Commissioners Retreat to make arrangements for that. But other than that, I think I've spoken enough.
Okay. Mr. Liker?
I had a good meeting with Sheriff Scott last week and went through the LEC, and is good. Got some really good information.
Good. Burgess?
Yeah, been 3 weeks. Seems like I've done plenty. I also had a tour with Sheriff Brown and his facility. I appreciate that. Went to a couple different city commission meetings. Our state legislators were here Saturday, so thank them for coming and speaking and answering questions at the library last Saturday. Attended the Hayes Chamber of Commerce event. Nice. Feels like there's something else going. Oh, that's it. Thursday, I will be attending. I'll be going to Topeka for the county day at the Capitol and kind of taking a little bit of a walkthrough and talking to different counties and county agencies that'll be there. Plan on taking my son as well to see the Capitol, so that'll be what I'm doing this week.
Good. I too attended with the rest of quite a few of the county employees, the chamber, and yesterday met with Mrs. Hammond, trying just to keep a good relation with Fort Hays State too. And then Saturday we had a function out at the fairgrounds, and I noticed that in both of those places that there was no American flag. This was a kids event / adult, an FFA. I would have liked to presented that to the children to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We had none, so I'm asking both commissioners and whoever if we can't get with the fair board, or if we can just do that and get a couple of flags out there, whether we put them up there permanent. Mr. Bill Ring was out there, and we looked in the closets. He said there used to be some. There is not. We could not find any. So I guess I'm asking both commissioners and requesting possibly that we can do something.
Yeah, I can visit with Tom Frost and we can get something similar that, like on a mast here, that they could store in the back room and be used for events that the flag is appropriate for. I would think, I'd hate to call it conflict, but you have weddings out there and they come out and decorate, so I'd hate for them to be decorating over a flag or not presenting the flag appropriately in full respect of it. So I think it would probably be more appropriate to have something like we have here in the background, so that way they can be moved around and used as needed rather than permanently mounted on a wall. But we can get something bought out of the fairgrounds fund to get them out there.
Okay.
That works.
Okay. The meeting is adjourned at 10:45.